All right. I am here with two of my favorite people in the world. My wife, of course, who I love dearly, even though she's psycho. And Gord.
The
What's up, Gord?
hero of
Hi,
of the
hi,
night.
Tommy. Hi, Beatrix. How's it going?
Hi. Hi, buddy.
How was your trip, dude?
Oh man, um, I was vibing pretty hard when I was in Ottawa. I'm pretty tired now, but that's just like built up fatigue from working so much the last few weeks because we're in like peak home heating season with propane, and I haven't slept properly in a long time. So I'm amazed I'm still awake.
Well,
Sure.
I mean, you drove 5 hours back, so that's no joke. People that don't drive for a living have no idea what that is.
Well, it's just getting warmed up if I was rested well. But, like I say, we had some pretty crazy times in Ottawa with the convoy. So,
All right. Well, let's talk about this white supremacist rally you went to. It was it was you and a bunch of snow monkeys at a white supremacist rally.
uh,
I
Am I getting this right?
I think it more properly should have been called like a Quebecois supremacist rally because there was a lot of French people there. So,
Okay, so I have a question because I didn't understand one thing at some point. People were like, "Oh, the people it's not a lot of people, blah blah blah," and then you said the convoy hasn't showed up yet. So what was the convoy exactly? Like, what was
okay.
that?
For your listeners, I'm sure you guys have all heard about this truck convoy, Freedom Convoy thing in Canada. It was organized kind of on the fly. It's super grassroots, only a couple weeks ago. And the thing with the convoy is it's actually multiple convoys coming from all different parts of the country. And there was a bunch of people and a bunch of trucks already in Ottawa on Friday night when I arrived. But then the main convoy coming from Western Canada, so everyone from BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Northern and Western Ontario, all showed up and made like a grand entrance into the city on
Mm.
Saturday. And so that those videos I was sharing around lunchtime on Saturday, I was on an overpass about 30 miles west of Ottawa, and we greeted it, and like you could see all the people on the overpass and the flags, and everybody was super pumped up. So, is that what you mean?
So
Yeah. Because someone commented on one of your videos and said, "Oh, there's a lot of people," and you said the convoy didn't show up yet.
Well, yeah, because I had taken video beforehand just to show the amount of people that were waiting to see them, and there was a bunch of trucks on the, how like you get on a clover leaf to get on the interstate, right? So
Mm-hmm.
a bunch of local trucks from the Ottawa area were like planning to join the convoy along Highway 417, and they were staging right there. They were just sitting there waiting for the main convoy.
Oh,
So I
okay.
think somebody that sort of didn't really know what was going on didn't think there was like, oh, it's not many trucks. I'm like, well,
Yeah,
no, of
yeah,
course not. It's not the main convoy yet.
yeah. That's what I was asking. Like,
so
what was the main convoy?
there
Anyway.
were there were reports I saw that there were 300 miles of trucks. So
Well,
it looked like what was happening was they were coming from every different direction. So you had like 50 miles of trucks coming from the west. You had 40 miles of trucks coming from the south. Another 40 miles of trucks coming from the
well,
east.
all of these numbers are exaggerated somewhat. I think there's like a lot of accounts on Twitter that like don't necessarily check their information, and they've got like a big audience and everybody retweets things. Um,
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure on an accurate length of any single one of the convoys.
Yeah.
Um, the only numbers that I really know for sure is that the people who organized it, who are dispersing all these funds that were raised, have like, you know, captains of each individual little group of trucks and people that join, and they compiled all their numbers, and they said that in total they had 37,000 vehicles registered to show
Two.
up for this thing.
That's a lot of fucking trucks.
Yeah, so that's vehicles. So people with like pickups pulling trailers with like home built signs on them, RVs, some big trucks. So it's a mix of everything. And then
Yeah,
a lot
because
of
I even saw some buses in the mix.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
And you're also going to have people who just sort of like come along for the ride who might not necessarily be registered as like official parts of the convoy, because like this thing grew so fast and so quickly. There was all kinds of people that joined in that might not be part of the official count. And this is the problem, is getting an accurate number on things is actually kind of hard. So, but it's a lot. And if you see some of the drone footage and helicopter footage of Ottawa, like we went in, after we greeted the convoy when it came in on the 417, my friends and I regrouped. We went downtown, and like downtown Ottawa was just paralyzed. There was just trucks on every single street and people everywhere. I've seen various numbers thrown around for total number of people on the streets, and I don't even want to repeat them because I don't know how accurate they are. I've seen as low as 100,000, and I've seen estimates that there were 2 million people on feet.
Yeah,
I'm very skeptical of the 2 million number, because the city of Ottawa in total, the greater Ottawa area, is only 1 million people. So yeah, but it was a lot. There was definitely at minimum 100,000 people in Ottawa on Saturday.
That's cool.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, must I go ahead now and
Go
tell
ahead.
my story? Yeah, like the videos that you posted, like whenever you like showed all the people like rallying behind the truck drivers and the truck drivers itself, like, dude, I told you I cried. I'm not joking. Like I fucking like cried with snot in my bloody old nose. I cried so hard.
It was very emotional for a lot of people, Beatrix.
Yeah.
Because I've said this a bunch, is this protest, it's not even really necessarily about the vax mandates or the truckers anymore. It's an expression of people's frustration with Trudeau, with the government, with the sort of biomedical tyranny we're seeing, and saying enough's enough. You've disrupted our lives for 2 years. Other countries are opening up. The numbers are going down. It's not as bad as you're all saying. Like, knock it off with all these mandates. And like the organizers of the Freedom Convoy have been very explicit. We are not anti-vaccines. We are not anti-anything except mandates. And we want all mandates lifted, not just for truckers, but for everybody. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that touched on something. And as people have been looking online, there's been videos coming in from all the provinces of these guys making their way east over the week before the official protest started on Saturday. And it just touched a nerve in Canadian society, and thousands and thousands and thousands of people have been coming out to support this. And I mean, they, I think as of today, they were up to 8.8 million on their GoFundMe. Like, they're just a ridiculous amount of money. And it's all donations. It's sort of like the analog I can give for you guys in your audience is like the Ron Paul thing in 2008, where he did those money bombs, and all of his donations were like less than $200. Same thing. If you go, you can go and look, because GoFundMe is open. You can look at every single donation and how much it was. And most of them are like $20, $50, $10. It's just people chipping in. So it's a very grassroots thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was something I wanted to talk to you about, because I know you talk to a lot of people on the ground. I know better than you were just there. I know you spoke to a bunch of people. So what were people saying? Like, why were they there? Like, what was going on?
I mean, there was a lot of different, I won't say different, but like there was a lot of expressions, of frustration. Like, people are just done with everything being locked down. They're done with masks. A lot of the truckers are also very upset because a lot of them crossed the border and they can't get over now. And one of the criticisms I've seen online from people who are like pro-vaccine mandates is saying, well, if you don't want it, just work within Canada. The problem is most of the freight moving in Canada goes south. The United States is Canada's largest trading partner, and vice versa. And most trucking that happens in Canada goes south. The internal domestic freight market in Canada could not possibly absorb all of the guys affected by the vaccine mandate. So they're basically shit out of luck.
Well, let me ask you this about Canada's trucking, because this is something I was curious about. Like Canada, in the wintertime, they can't grow a lot of crops. So during the winter, are they more dependent on the U.S. shipping up produce to them?
Yes. Yeah, we're dependent on the U.S. shipping up produce most of the year because there's only certain crops that get grown up here because we're so far north, right?
Right.
So in total, regardless of season and regardless of crop, I believe Canada imports somewhere between 80 and 90% of its food. A great
So you're
deal
like
of what,
you're basically looking out starving out your population.
well, I don't know about starving, but it's certainly going to be limiting the choice of products. One of the very first indicators that the vaccine mandate was affecting the market is that the first week, even before the mandate hit, the rates for refrigerated transport to come from, say, California or Arizona back to Toronto or Montreal basically doubled overnight because there's not enough trucks. And when you have less of something, the price goes up. And now I've seen indications that, even shorter haul around the Great Lakes, like to Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, New York, rates have increased 50 cents a mile because there's just not enough guys. I mean, Trudeau tried to downplay it and say it's a very small minority.
No, he said you were a small fringe minority.
Small fringe minority. And then and something similar was said by the
fringe.
There was a lot of signs at the protest saying, "So this is some fringe minority, isn't it?" Yeah, I'm part of the fringe. That was a very prominent sign. A lot of people had made signs saying, "I'm part of the fringe." Where was I going? The Canadian Trucking Alliance, which is the sort of analog to the American Trucking Association in the United States. It's like a industry lobby group. They represent large carriers, and they're all about the vaccine mandate, and they disapproved of the convoy. Well, of course they did. They don't represent the average truck driver, and it's like a competition thing to get drivers because the market for truck drivers is short, and if there's no vaccine mandate, if the big companies impose one on their own without the government doing it for them, guys can just quit and go work somewhere else. It's the same thing that happened with the speed limiters. Ontario was the first place in North America to bring out mandated speed limiters on trucks. Like, oh man, a long, long time ago. And
so these would be what's commonly known with truckers as governors, right?
Correct. Yeah, governing the speed or the engine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
okay. I just want to make sure that I'm on the same page because, I know what a governor is. I don't know what a speed limiter is.
You have a lot of libertarians listen to your show, and we're all familiar with the term regulatory capture. How big companies use government regulation to pound on their competition. So the speed limiter mandate that was brought into Ontario, I can't remember what year it was, but it's a long time ago now. That was not thought up by the government. That was not the MTO's idea. It wasn't the Ministry of Transportation. It was literally an initiative of the Ontario Trucking Association. They thought it up. They lobbied the government to get it. The government did what they wanted because at that time, the economy was really hot, I recall. And the demand for drivers was through the roof, and guys that didn't want to drive castrated trucks would just go work somewhere else. And the bigger companies were having a hard time with retention. And so that was one of their solutions to that, was just say, well, if everybody has to do this, then we'll have less guys hopping seats. It was pure regulatory capture. There was no statistics to back up saying that trucks were going any faster than anybody else. I mean, you see guys tailgating out on the road, and you get the odd person who gets up to no good, but like the numbers didn't add up with like the import they were trying to put on this to get it passed. It got passed. Quebec did one at the same time, so all trucks in Ontario and Quebec had to be speed limited.
Yeah. So when you were when you decided to go up to this white supremacist exclusive protest, what made you feel that you were also a white supremacist?
I felt shame for not bringing my own Confederate flag. Apparently, only one guy at the entire thing, 100,000 people, and there was only one Confederate flag. And I'm just like, yeah, man, I'm sorry. I'm not stepping up hard enough with this. You know? And then I guess there was like one glowy Fed that had a literal swastika flag that the media is going apeshit about, but there's only like 2 or 3 pictures of it. And then the guy disappeared and there's no other photos. So it was basically staged. It was like literally a false flag. Yeah. But of course, the media are ridiculous. And because no incidents took place, the Ottawa police said no incidents, no arrests, everything was fine. So the media's got nothing. So they have to like jump on whatever they can jump on. And so, you know, one Confederate flag means 37,000 drivers that showed up are all bad guys. Right.
So yeah, and that was one thing I heard. Like, Canadians are notoriously nice people. Like, just
until we're not.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but a lot of the people that were talking about this protest were saying, like, if you've pushed Canada to this point, then
oh my God, yeah,
there's a big issue.
Yeah.
Right. And so you had a lot more voices backing you than you did not have backing you.
Correct. And I mean, like I say, the usual lemmings of the mainstream government corporate media complex did their usual thing. But if you talk to anybody on the ground, they were all in support of it. Like my dad, for instance, my father was on a fishing trip, ice fishing up on Lake Nipissing up by North Bay last week. And when he drove home on Wednesday or Thursday down Highway 400, like 11 and 400 from North Bay, he said all of the overpasses had people waving flags and cars and beeping and signs and carrying on. But Highway 400 doesn't go to Ottawa.
Right.
The whole thing has now become this other, it's bigger than the truckers, and people were just coming out to party and show support for it, even though the highway they were on was not part of the convoy route. It was just like the nearest place to go hang out and wave flags at trucks, because it's not even about the convoy or the mandate anymore. People are just sick and tired of this crap, and they're expressing it in all these different ways.
Yeah, and people don't understand, when it comes to truckers, most of us are pretty laid back. We just kind of like want to do our job and be done. If you've gotten to a position where you get a mass organization of truck drivers saying you go fuck yourself, like, you've really screwed the pooch on this one.
Yes. And as we've discussed on your show before and in writings and other shows I've been on, there's already plenty of reasons for truck drivers to be ticked off and annoyed and have some kind of labor action. And it just never seems to happen. But this vax mandate thing was the proverbial straw that broke the multi-trailered camel's back, right?
Yeah.
That was it. It was like they've gone too far. That was the line. After ELDs, after emission control systems on trucks, after speed limiting, after all the garbage we've put up with for so long from the state, they come along with this vax mandate, and like that was it. Like, you're right. We are mostly laid back. We've let the government roll us over on a bunch of stuff as a collective of people doing one job. But the vax mandate, that was it. It was like, okay, sweet. We've hit this point now. No more.
Do you think anybody's like, because Trudeau made a point to let everybody know he was running away from the caravan. So do you think anybody is listening? Because like, my whole thought process is, it doesn't matter if Trudeau's listening. Like, this is going to affect average people, and average people are going to start vocalizing. and saying, hey, yo, I can't get a goddamn loaf of bread, dude. You know, like shit like that's gonna start making a difference.
It hasn't got that bad yet, although I know what you mean by the loaf of bread. However, you are correct in that the average person now has way more sympathy for the truckers and this, anti-lockdown, anti-mandate movement. And Trudeau, you've spoken about the WEF and the Great Reset and ESG issues. And Trudeau and a bunch of people in his cabinet are all creatures of Klaus Schwab. There's like a WEF Youth Leaders Summit where a whole bunch of them went to in the past. Yeah. And they don't answer to the public anymore. There's this guy named Aaron McIntyre who just wrote an article that came out today, and he's like, there's no democracy happening here. It's just like authoritarianism, and the traditional political parties are not doing anything to help the average person or do anything about these mandates. And I don't think Trudeau is going to listen. My assumption is that if Trudeau does back down, it will be because business interests whose bottom lines are being affected by the increase in freight rates from the constriction of the available number of drivers to cross the border are going to tell him, knock it off. I also had a conversation with a friend of mine today who's much more politically connected than I am. He shall remain anonymous. Apparently, there's a rift within the Liberal Party, which is the governing party in Canada right now, although with a minority parliament. The Liberal Party has always had like the old school establishment liberals and then like a youth wing. Yeah. And Trudeau sort of straddles both, right? Like he's supported by both because his father was in with the old guys, but he's also very much part of the youth wing. But apparently the old guard of the Liberal Party are not happy with what's going on. And I mean, how embarrassing for the country that Trudeau just takes off. He like runs away from a peaceful protest. Oh no, I fear for my life. Like, I saw a tweet today from this guy, Monsieur Le Baron. Shout out to Monsieur Le Baron. What king runs away from his castle? Like what the hell is he doing? Like this, it's an embarrassment. This man is not a leader. He's a social signaler, and he's a toady to international globalists and the WEF and all these other people. He's not responsive to Canadians. He doesn't give a crap about us.
So is this a wake up call, or is this?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's a wake up call for Canada to be like, all right, we've had enough of this guy, and possibly, hopefully, a wake up call for him. Like he looks like a moron, and I think some of the smarter people behind the scenes within the Liberal Party of Canada, the Federal Liberal Party, know this, like that this is bad vibes, what he's doing.
Yeah, but exactly. In the end of the day, if you have a leader that runs away, clearly this guy is not a leader. He's a fucking coward like the rest of everyone that's in power. And you should not follow this guy. You shouldn't listen to him. If he runs away when shit gets like kinda like mildly bad, he runs away. He's not a fucking leader. They're not leaders. They're just fucking people who get a paycheck and tell you what the fuck to do.
Yes, exactly. No argument.
So
yeah. I drop truth bombs.
That's why I married her. Yeah. So was there any violence that you saw?
No, not at all. It was festive. Everybody was respectful. People were like all giving each other high fives. Everyone was just like standing and holding signs and cheering and clapping, and people were like, so there's all these truckers parked in the street, right? And like people would come up to the side and, get on the step and give the truck drivers high fives. And like, they were just honking their horns. Like all the video you see from Ottawa, everyone's blasting their air horns. There was this one Frenchman had his Peterbilt just down from Parliament a little ways, and he was like revving up his engine and hitting the jakes like. And,
Go ahead.
And people were just pumped, and like a lot of people came to this protest at Parliament who I don't even think were associated with the truckers convoy at all. They're just against the mandates, especially Quebecers, because the Quebec provincial government has instituted some pretty harsh and punitive measures in the province. And there was a lot of people from Quebec. There was a lot of signs in French, a lot of signs saying liberté and choix, for choice. Pardon me. And it like I say, it's not, the whole thing isn't necessarily about the truckers or the vax mandates anymore. It's about telling the government to get lost and knock it off and return society to the open place it was before.
Yeah, and I know like Canada has been like really like hit hard with this fucking bullshit, and my sister too in New Zealand. I mean, they get locked down every like 2 minutes. Someone sneezes, whole country goes into lockdown. Like it is like ridiculous. Like when has this ever happened for anything? It is absolutely just a ploy. It is a fucking thing that should not bloody hell happen. And you guys making a joke of our lives. You're like putting people out of fucking business. You are putting people out of their fucking lives. You are like scaring people to the point, like I saw a video that Tommy posted this morning, or showed me this morning. These people have fear in their eyes. Oh my God, someone's not wearing a mask. I'm going to fucking definitely die right now. Like, it is like so sick. It is so sick.
It
like,
is.
And to get stop it. Just
yeah, and to get back to Tommy's question before about like violence or people getting rowdy or anything, it's actually it's actually a testament to people's composure that they're not, because they have every reason to get rowdy. They have every reason to be angry about what the government's done to us, but there was no violence anywhere, nothing. There was tons of cops. The Ottawa police actually contracted police from other parts of Ontario. So there was like Durham Regional Police, York Regional Police, guys from Toronto. And me and my friends actually spoke to some cops from Toronto, and we asked them, like, why are you guys here? And they're like, well, Ottawa police wanted extra people because they thought it was going to be a shit show. And it's not a shit show. We're just walking around talking to people. Everybody's being cool. The cops were like super impressed about how well behaved everybody was.
Yeah, I noticed that because like I was watching your videos and I was like, there's not a cop in sight. Not a fucking one cop in sight. It's
well,
just
they were around. I mean, I didn't explicitly go and film the cops because I didn't want to like get them annoyed, and like, what's the point of doing that? I like I say, it was festive, and like as night fell, it developed a party atmosphere. These guys put in these sound systems, and there was like almost like a rave happening on Elgin Street, like at the corner down from like 300 yards from Parliament. There's like a literal dance party happening in the middle of the street. There's like hundreds of people like getting down.
I saw that.
I saw a tweet. This chick said something along the lines of, how can you call it peaceful if there were horns honking all day long and all night long, keeping people from sleeping? This is not peaceful. And I was like, okay, now honking is violence.
Well,
before speech was violence, and now just honking a horn is violence.
Yeah, no, you don't want that violent honking, baby.
Well, I normally wouldn't sympathize with any of these people, but I'm very tired right now, so I can sort of see their point a little bit. There was no violence. The cops even said yesterday, no arrests, no problems. They had to tow a few cars that were parked illegally. I mean, whatever. That's funny too. Yeah, we had to tow a few cars that are parked illegally. It's like, dude, you have hundreds and thousands of trucks in downtown Ottawa that are parked illegally.
Yeah. So, is there going to be any major takeaway from this? You had said that the truckers were planning on staying.
Yes,
No,
quite a few of them are. Yeah, they're going to sit tight until either the leadership of this movement, such as it is, originally it was cooked up by this lady in Alberta named Tamara Lich. She's the woman that organized the GoFundMe. I believe she's one of the primary organizers of the convoy. I don't know if they're going to get a meeting with Trudeau or the transport minister. I'm not connected.
You got to give him at least 5 days of quarantine. You know that much.
Yeah, he's hiding in the Defen bunker or something. I don't know. So hey, there's this little Canadian trivia for you. In the 1950s, when like the Cold War was in full swing and everybody thought we were facing nuclear Armageddon, there was a prime minister. The prime minister at the time was a guy named John Diefenbaker, who was a Saskatchewan boy, and they built an underground bunker in order for the government to evacuate and continue leading Canadian society. It's in a place near called Carp, which is about half an hour outside of Ottawa. So in the event of nuclear Armageddon, everyone was supposed to decamp to this thing, and it ended up being called the Defen bunker. Right?
Is that where he took his family?
No, I think it's a museum now. They don't use it or anything. I don't know where Trudeau ended up. He's probably at a cabin somewhere in the hills in the Laurentian Mountains in Quebec or something. Like, who knows? Who knows where that guy is?
Yeah, the fact of the matter is, no matter how much grief I give you because I'm just an asshole sometimes.
No argument.
the idea that truckers can show up, the population can experience their shelves not being filled, and Trudeau can be running away at this exact same moment. To me, it exposed who he is.
Yeah, he's an empty suit. I really don't think there's anything to him.
Do you think there's any way whatsoever people can still support him? Like, it just seems so insane for people to be like, okay, I don't want any part of this rally, and then to watch what he's done and to see how it affects the everyday person's life and still support him. How is that even going to be a possibility?
Well, how it's possible is because of the Canadian political system. So we're parliamentary, right? So we don't have a two-party republic like the US.
Right.
There's a bunch of different parties in Canada. There's three main parties: the Liberals, the NDP, and the Conservative Party. And you guys probably would have seen, if you remember, Trudeau called an election a few months back because under the parliamentary system, the prime minister's prerogative, he can call an election whenever he wants, as long as he does one at least at a minimum of every 5 years. And Trudeau thought that he was going to get a majority in parliament. He's been a minority prime minister, which is to say he does not have a clear-cut majority of members in parliament. So he depends on the NDP or the Bloc Québécois or the Greens to help him get legislation passed. So he thought because of COVID, you could take advantage of this emergency and have people vote and give him a majority. Well, they had a vote and almost nothing changed. Only a handful of seats changed hands between the parties. It essentially didn't move the needle really anywhere. And so he still has a minority position in parliament. But the problem is nobody in the Canadian politics offered any opposition to Trudeau or the COVID mandates, the lockdowns, all this garbage. The Conservative Party in Canada they're basically like liberal light. They're not, their leader right now is this guy named Aaron O'Toole, who's like a feckless twit and he's completely useless. And then this other guy who's in charge of the NDP, a fellow from British Columbia named Jagmeet Singh, who's some kind of flavor of socialist, but he's more of an identity politics hustler. And he's no better than Trudeau. Basically, there's no opposition in Canada. There's this small new party called the People's Party of Canada, which was started by this guy who left the Conservatives named Maxime Bernier. Bernier's lost his seat. He has no seat in Parliament. He's just kind of a gadfly now. And he was the only one saying, we're going to stop this. But
So wait,
the PPC were demonized in the media as Nazis and racists and all the rest of it.
well, hold on. Let's just stop right there. I don't think we need to go any further because I think this gives us all the information we need. So you're telling me that this protest was not in any way, shape, or form possibly organized by a political party?
No, it wasn't connected to any of them at all. This is the
So there's no way whatsoever that the major political parties in Canada can tie this to anybody and try to make it into anything other than what it actually was.
Correct. There's no partisan affiliations. Now, one exception is that because the media functions as an arm of the state in Canada, as an arm of the Liberal Party, whether it's the CBC, CTV, Global News, with a couple of other exceptions, but like it's like what Moldbug calls the cathedral. It's the Cathedral North.
Right.
So they pile on a few conservative members of parliament, and two of the provincial premiers have said they support the convoy and they support the protests. So what happens is the media demonizes them and says, why are you supporting these extremists? This is irresponsible. You're bad for doing this, right? But there's no official connection between the people who organized the convoy and any of the political parties in the country, any of the unions, any of the major institutions. And this is one of the reasons that a lot of people aren't supporting them, and they're mad because all of the people like at an institutional level in Canada have no way to control it. And they don't get any say on it. So that's why the entire media class and the political class, minus a few exceptions, are poo-pooing it or demonizing it because none of them are getting their cut. None of them are getting anything out of it because it's that grassroots.
That's remarkable.
Yeah.
Because you will never get even down here in the U.S., you had like the Tea Party a few years back, back when Obama was in office. And even then it got taken over by political parties. So the fact that this is not run or operated or orchestrated by any political party is remarkable.
Yeah, no, it was literally cooked up in the kitchen of this woman and her partner in Alberta. And their original goal, what they thought they were able to pull off, was to get 1,600 sort of people they knew. Now, I guess this lady in Alberta is part of a very, very tiny provincial party in Alberta. I can't even remember the name of it because I didn't even know it existed until this convoy thing started. It's like a nothing tiny party.
Yeah.
And she basically said their original intent was to get the 1,600 people they knew through that party to come to Ottawa. And it went from 1,600 to being like a nationwide thing. And now there's convoys planned in Australia and the UK. And I guess there's mini protests in Brazil and Italy. And this thing literally lit the internet on fire in the last week.
Well, right. And it went from like an actual grassroots movement to a global movement, which
correct.
Is incredible.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, people who would otherwise ostensibly claim to speak for the working class, like the NDP in Canada, or the Communist Party or these Marxists or anyone that says they're for the workers, they're mad because these truckers self-organized spontaneously without any input from any of these like institutional labor people whatsoever. Like they're not part of it, and they're pissed because the truckers showed them up. When was the last big labor movement to like protest something that you can remember that was this big?
Well, and I think you and I had talked about it, a couple of years ago, like that if it ever got to a point where truckers got pissed off and decided to stand up, countries were fucked. Like what are they going to do? And especially in the middle of a supply chain crisis, and then you want to go piss off truck drivers? You done fucked up, dude.
Well, no,
Like,
this is the thing is as well, this is part of the whole discussion, like you say, about supply chains and the globalized nature of our economy is everything is moving. Containers on ships and trains and trucks and like all of the inputs into making things come from all different parts of the world. And I think people are starting to realize now that the trucking industry and the people working within it now have a whole lot more leverage than was previously thought. And especially because the supply chain system around the world has been shown to be very brittle, right? It's so efficient and runs so lean, any disruption to it will cause reverberations throughout the entire system. So it can't handle. And like, to a certain point, like the CTA and Trudeau are right. Yeah, it is a small minority of truck drivers that have refused the vaccine and aren't going to do this. But like 10 or 15% of truck drivers that are no longer crossing the border, 10% is a lot of freight not getting moved. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So, and they can't they can't just pull those people out of their butts.
Yeah. You can say it's a small fringe minority all day long, but the effects are massive.
Correct.
And so, yeah. And again, this is what you and I have talked about so many times. If truckers ever got it in their head that, hey, wait, you're fucking us? Okay, fuck you. Let's see what happens now. Like, keep hiring your little young kids and try to get your little 18, 19, 20-year-old kids to run a fucking truck. But you're not going to run a trucking company that way. That's not the way that you're going to run a trucking company.
No, they can't. And I think, more and more people are now aware, in part to like myself and Steve Viscelli and a few other people in the media saying this, that like the large mega carriers' whole business model is built on churn and getting cheap new people all the time. Yeah. And that's under threat now. And that's why Biden and their supply chain committee or whatever decided that they're going to lift the 18-year-old interstate restriction on CDL under 21 CDL holders.
Yeah,
and
no, I had
they're not actually going to address the problem that's causing the problem that they're trying to solve. It's a band-aid solution, and it's probably not going to work.
Right. No, I had a candidate for Senate contact me the other day asking me about that. About
really? Like how, Texas or feds?
No, he's in North Carolina. A good friend of mine, Matthew Ho.
Okay.
Yeah, you've heard him on the show a few times.
Yes, I have.
Yeah. So, he's running for Senate under the Green Party, and they approached him and asked him to run, and he agreed to it. And then he was asking me about 18-year-olds driving truck, and I told him, I said, look, man, I said the problem isn't like they want you to believe that the problem is that there's not enough people that are capable of driving truck. That's not the problem. Anybody can drive a fucking truck. And if you want to put 18-year-olds out there, it's a lot of responsibility, but put them with a trainer for like 1 or 2 years, they'll be fine. Like,
yeah, this is the thing. We need more robust training.
Right.
And,
exactly.
And like this isn't very libertarian, but whatever, the government runs the roads. That's who's got to be in charge of this. Yeah. I want to see a graduated licensing system like they have in Australia or New Zealand. And, right. Whatever, you can adjust it to make it work here. But the mega carriers they're not having any of that because that destroys their entire business model.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. And that's what I went on and tell them. I was like, the problem isn't the truck drivers. Like, the amount of truck drivers is not an issue. The problem is these legacy carriers and these subsidies that they're getting from the government that's driving down wages, and then truck drivers that have been driving truck for 20 years don't want to do it anymore because it's like, why am I going to be gone for months on end when I can make as much money working locally?
Yeah.
You have to actually compensate the fact that we're gone all the time, and that the things we're doing and we're putting up with, And if you're not willing to compensate that, and if the government is going to subsidize you into rotating all these young kids into your industry so that you don't have to pay us, then we aren't going to fucking do the work. We're not going to do it. And we don't want anything to do with you. I mean, I get a text or a call every week from Crete. Every week.
Wow, they want you back that bad, eh?
Still to this day, they call me or text me at least once a week.
Wow, that's crazy.
They've run out of kids to rotate through.
Man, crazy ex-girlfriend syndrome.
How many times can these kids get out there on the road with no experience, get in accidents, and keep their fucking license and keep their fucking jobs? Oh, they can't. You can't keep sending these fucking know-nothings out onto the road. You can't do it.
Well, yeah, and one of the points I made when I was on my part 2 of that series I did with Oliver Bateman and Steve Viscelli is that, I mean, that's great that you want to lift this restriction on interstate CDL holders under the age of 21. But, you know, the trend is that kids are getting their car licenses much later in life, or not at all until they're in their 20s or 30s. It's like, where are you harvesting all of these 18-year-olds? Because the trend is that they don't even have their car license to begin with. So, like, I don't know. They're really clutching at straws here, man.
I've run into guys that didn't have an actual vehicle license until they got their CDL.
I'm just gonna
wow, really?
Yes.
I've never heard of this.
Several times.
I believe it, but I haven't run into that myself yet. That's crazy.
Yeah, I've run into it several times. Like, they had never even gotten a driver's license, and then they couldn't find a job, and you know, they're using Uber for everything, or mom and dad are bringing them everywhere. And then they need a job. So they fucking get on with a company that says, well, we'll train you to drive a truck. The first time they ever put their foot on the throttle is in an 18-wheeler.
That's insanity. Yeah, I would. Yeah, that's.
but everything will be fine. It's all fine.
Oh man.
Well, all right, man. Like, I can keep you all night because you and I are buddies, and I don't want to do that because I know you're tired. So, what, baby?
No,
if you have any more questions, I can go for a few more minutes.
Oh,
like no.
Well, she's making noises over here.
No,
I was just wondering what she's making.
This guy made me cry like fucking 17 times in this weekend. Well,
like, Beatrix, I'm sorry that happened, but it was very emotional for a lot of people, man.
Dude, like I told you, like that to me, like seeing something like that to me is like very emotional because I know you guys actually gonna achieve something, and I
hope so.
Yes, no, I know so. I'll tell you right now, I know so. Like it is going to achieve something like magnificent. And I want something for my own country, but we do that and we like try our best, and it's like, okay, 5 people showed up and yeah, it's gonna be magnificent, but it's never gonna fucking change nothing. But what you guys did this weekend, like made my heart like cry, my eyes too. I cried my fucking tits out just to know that you guys like stood up and you were there. You were there to like fucking say, no, thank you, sir. And it makes my heart so happy to know that people can fucking do that.
I think you were just happy that I was out in the minus 25 Celsius and you weren't.
I was very upset. I Googled the bloody hell temperature. I was like, oh my God, they're going to fucking die. They're going to fucking die.
Here's the thing, like,
when I was telling people, I mean, you can vouch for this, Gord. I was telling people, I was like, these are my people. Like, truckers are a different breed. Y'all don't know what the fuck these people don't have a clue what the fuck they're dealing with right now.
Yeah, it's very.
We're a different breed of people.
Something
you have to have a certain mentality to live that life. And
Correct.
that mentality is not someone that's easy to push around. And
No,
so
correct.
when you have a ton of truckers that have decided you've pushed too far, motherfucker, like you are asking for a fight. And it's not a fight you're gonna win easily.
Yeah, we done.
Yeah, and I'm that's what drove me to go. You know, when I first heard about it, like many other protests and many other like movements, sometimes it really doesn't amount to anything, or it's very small, and an actual fringe, as Trudeau puts it. But this was like it had snowballed into something. Like every day there was more videos and more people joining, and it was like. It took on a life of its own, and I couldn't not go. Like I told my wife, like, you know, I have to go back to Canada and support my people. I couldn't not be there because it's a pretty major moment in Canadian history and for the trucking business. I had to be there. You know, I had to support my people.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, like I've told a lot of people, like truckers are just a different breed. This is not every other protest you've ever seen.
No,
like, this is a different type of person that you are starting to fuck with. And like by fucking with this type of person, you're begging for a fucking fight. You're like, this is not the kind of person that's going to be like, I just disagree, and now go back as you were, Lord Trudeau.
Vaccines, I'm gonna do it. No. This is like
I wanted to say, I think it speaks something to, again, what you just said, the stubbornness and the fight that's within all of us kind of people that work these very adverse jobs, plus the weather. Like it was literally with the wind chill, it was 25 below Celsius. And then with the wind chill, it was south of -30. If you can get hundreds of thousands of people to come outside when it's 30 degrees below zero, to join in a protest, these are not lightweights. These are not people that are farting around. These are people that mean business.
Yeah, they're not playing.
Like, well, I mean, and you would see, and like I would see videos of old women, like on bridges, like cheering on the truckers, saying, "We're not against vaccines. We're just against the mandates. We're looking for freedom." And they're old ladies. They're like in their like 60s or 70s. It's like, what are you doing to drive these old women out there?
Like Gina
like I said, it's touched something in the human spirit that's been repressed for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it dovetails with some other trends in society that are much older than, you know, the COVID nonsense. But like people, like I say, people have had enough. It's been 2 years.
Yeah.
Other countries are opening up, and Trudeau and the establishment in Canada are being ridiculous. Some of the provincial premiers are being ridiculous, and you know, people in Canada have TVs and the internet, and they can see that things in Texas are normal, things in Florida are normal, things in Sweden are normal, things everywhere around the world are normal, and they're like, why can't we have that?
Right. Yeah.
So, you know, like we can't, you know, the air, we all breathe the same air and everything travels the same way, no matter where you are in the world.
No.
Why are we being screwed, and why are those people not? Like enough.
You know? Enough.
All right, brother. Well, I want to let you get to your family because you've been gone, you've been traveling, but I want you to make sure you plug everything you're going to be doing. I'm releasing this tomorrow. No intro. It's going right up on the Libertarian Institute tomorrow. Just as is. So,
you should
let us know everything you're doing this week, because I know you're going to be around, and there's a lot of people wanting to talk to you. So what's going on?
Okay. So if you want to follow me around the internet, I'm working on a couple of writing projects that I want to keep under wraps. I'm not going to really talk about those.
Yeah.
I'm going to be on the Good Old Boys podcast on Tuesday night, which will probably be released on Wednesday. Their Tuesday night live stream. They're having me on as a guest to talk about what we just talked about. And there's another podcast based in Canada called Red Star Radio with like some legit Marxist commies who are on our side on all of this. So
go figure. Go figure.
Yeah,
we're not all
imagine
fucking
that.
enemies, motherfucker.
That's right. Horseshoe theory. You know, COVID horseshoe theory. So I'm going to be speaking with them. I'm not sure what the date on that's going to be. And yeah, find the shows I did on What's Left. Old ones I've done with you. Go on my Twitter at Ghost of Gord. My pinned tweet is an essay I wrote earlier this last year about the difference between essential workers and the email job people. Yeah, go look at my videos. Go look at everybody's videos from Ottawa. It'll make your heart sing.
Videos are magnificent. Your videos make me cry.
Okay. Thank you very much, Beatrix. I appreciate your emotional support for us. That's great.
Yeah, makes me.
All right, brother. Well, you have a good night, man. Enjoy the family.
Yeah. Peace out.
Love
Thank you for having me on. Thank you to all your listeners. Thank to everybody out there that has supported the Freedom Convoy in any way, in any fashion. Just talking about it, donations to their GoFundMe, or just moral support. That's great. Thank you very much. And you guys all have a good night.
You too, buddy.
All right, buddy.
Love
we
you.
love you.
Bye.
All right. Peace.
Bye.